Welcome to the channel. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Thank you for joining me. This is part 2 in the Covert Emotional Incest Fundamentals talks that I'm doing. Part 1 was just to make clear that covert emotional incest is not a healthy parent to adult child or child bond. It is not a healthy relationship between a parent and a child. It is a whole different entity. It's built on and off of brokenness between parents, where a parent now has no partner, or the relationship between the partner is broken, or dead even. The parents don't have to be separated. In some cases, the children will sleep in bed with the parent while the other parent sleeps in another bed. Or if they're little kids, it starts off with the children sleeping between the parents, and can be used as a shield inside marriage. This is not necessarily covert emotional incest, but it's the start of the separation, because that's how it works. It works through separation. The separation of the parents, who would then replace surrogate the children, without going outside the exclusivity of the relationship or bringing strangers in. The problem with it is, I've known husbands that have called covert emotional incest on their wives, in a relationship where there is no outsider. It's all DNA. Covert emotional incest can work within DNA relationships, viewers. I'll come to the Egyptian side of this soon. This is absolutely going to amaze you, in terms of another perspective and way in which you can see this sinister bond work. It's an unbreakable bond. It's built on DNA fusions, emotional fusions, which are very hard to break. It's a realm all of its own, which you cannot be involved in. You'll be invited in. Sorry about the background noise, viewers. I'm on the run, exercising. It will be. You'll be a visitor. That's all you'll be. These people can have a sense that they love you, but they'll never be totally emotionally connected to you, because they're not in love with themselves. They're usually self-punishing. They're not in love with their children, really. You can tell by the way that they're acting with them. They'll give their life. They'll, lay down their lives for them and that, but the way in which the dysfunction's working through these people, they're no different to a mummy. Is in the sense that they're psychologically dead in terms of being wholesome. There's nothing wholesome in the way in which they're emotionally corresponding with these people. Sam Vachnin, who I'm sorry, but I consider him to be the most comprehensive and enlightened professor of psychology relative to narcissism in the world. He likens these people to dead because they're not producing anything that's constructive by way of emotional development. It's all the opposite. And Jesus said, "Let the dead bury their own dead." What did he mean by that? These people weren't developing into anything that was going to be of any decency or of any good. They weren't trying to live their lives guided by the principles of God, which is the only way really we can kind of protect ourselves from ourselves. So essentially, in terms of emotional development, emotional protection, these people are dead. They're promiscuous, they'll take substances, they're destructive. Basically, they're emotionally destructive. They have no sense of what they're doing. They have no self-awareness whatsoever. I can tell you this by personal experience. Their conscience will go in and out. They're destructive, they're harmful, they're hateful, they're backbiters, they're tattletales, they whinge, they whine, they're immature, they're infantile. They will go into their default, which is usually substance related, yet they'll come out from that expecting people to work in with them within their dysfunction to provide them emotional supply, sexual supply, and they'll stay in that as long as they can, providing it's good supply. If they meet someone and the person's not what they expect, they will jettison the relationship. They will evacuate the building. They will abandon that person as soon, even if they've slept with them. It doesn't matter how promiscuous or anything like that is, they will abandon the situation. If that person is not going to be conditioned. You see, they groom the people that they want in their life. The first part is this person going to be able to provide me with the physical supply that I need? Right, you've got to get past the boundaries and fences that these people have around their covert emotional incestual relationship. You're dealing with a tribe, a family that's conditioned itself to isolate itself from the rest of the world by thinking its grandiosity of its tribe is better than the world around it. So unless this person's completely sexually starved, high, in a moment of lust, or vulnerable to some extent, you're not going to penetrate the walls of this tribe. They are they can be frigid, they can abandon, they can put you on hold, and there's all this processing and calculating taking place while you are while they're navigating you, and while you think you're coming into what should be a normal relationship. But I can promise you it's not going to be. So if you see, the thing is, you don't just waltz in to the covert emotional tribe, incestual tribe. And this is part of the grandiosity that captures you, that engages you to think that you're coming into something special. But it won't take long before you'll see the cracks in the render start to appear. It doesn't take long. And you'll, unless you've really got your wits about you, these cracks in the concrete, or cracks in the character, as it were, can slip past your consciousness, your guard, very, very easily. And this is when you start to be conditioned. This is when you start to be entrained. This is when the programming of you to work around the covert emotional incest begins. And it's micro-incremental, but it's sullen, and it works, and it goes deep. So you're actually being programmed to be dead. You're being mummified. You're being wrapped in the bandages, as it were, of the relationship. You're being duplicated. You're being conditioned as an outsider to work around the covert emotional incestual environment. You'll be an outsider. You may not be allowed to come deep inside the circle, depends on who's running the situation. If the parent's already morphed into the child and the child or children are now the parent, you will not get into the central part of the tribe. You will be an outsider, full stop. You'll remain on the outside. They will not let you penetrate in, because you'll be a threat to the main source, which is the parent, because the parent will usually be supplying financially the housing, the food, and this kind of thing, because they deliberately disenable these children so that they don't go anywhere. It's a deliberate disenablement, and this ensures that the covert emotional incest is not going to collapse. It's all built on enmeshment. It's all built on dependency, dysfunctional dependency. And these people, sorry about the background noise, viewers, but these people will challenge if you're codependent, or not, or this kind of thing. And they're completely and utterly beyond codependent. These people have submitted to an evil spirit that is an evil way of psychopathy. I don't know if their psychology is so bad that they're beyond codependent, because these people will put their lives down for the covert emotional incest. They'll lose relationships. They'll take drugs to ease their conscience. They'll be alcoholics. They'll be compulsive, excessive masturbators, because they're getting the thrill of the deception. They're consciously deceiving each other by the grandiosity of themselves. The honesty levels are minimal, because what happens is the adult children have gotten to a point where they've been allowed to leech on the parents so badly that the parent just surrenders to any request for financial, drug, housing, food supply that they can get. They rape, pillage and plunder. That's why they're regarded as dead, because there's nothing constructive being built in the domestic culture of the family. It's all based on how people feel, what they're going to get, and they play the faithfulness card all the time. Oh, you're not being faithful to me. Oh, you're letting me down. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, who's this? Who's that? No, that's not fair. That's not right. Oh, he done this to me. They done that to me. And there's no psychological characteristical development. And this binds these people even further into the incest. And it gets worse and worse and worse. It goes on and on and on. So they go through stages where they turn on each other. And that's when they start to look outward. It becomes too much. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. They go outside the relationship. They might meet somebody that's A-grade supply. They might not. They might just have a one-night fling, and then the conscience kicks in and they retract back to the covert emotional incestual environment. Because a lot of these people live together. They've been disabled. The family's domestic culturalization is to enable disablement. It's built on being a victim. Because if you're a victim, then you're entitled to help and support. And that help and support comes from usually the provider, which is the parent, the mother or the father. as the main supplier. Pete! As the main provider. Sorry viewers, I'm on the run. I'm trying to fit all this in amongst my other commitments, but I'm getting it out there while it's fresh in my mind. This come to me by revelation during my resting periods. But it's all emotionally based and built. If they can, if things start to collapse within the tribe, they'll go outside the tribe. But the problem is, they can't reculturalize quick enough if they meet somebody who's an A-grade supply. They can't reculturalize themselves quick enough to be able to adapt to a strong and healthy relationship. Now, a lot of these people will depend on their looks and their ego and their way of influencing out of what they have physically, and they'll play on that. But their emotional aspects will let them down every time because they're not there. That's where the mummy aspect of it, that's where they're dead. They're the walking dead, because they'll betray themselves every time. Their emotional connection is with the parent or the parent with the child. And it only takes a certain amount of time before this is exposed, because the normal person that's giving out sexual supply expects an emotional return as well, but these people cannot provide that. Initially they can, but as time goes by they get exposed, because they can't divide themselves emotionally that way without causing conflict, serious conflict. And this is where it all starts to come undone, seriously undone. They begin to put pressure on the covert emotional incestual part of their life. They got pressure coming from the relationship side of their life. If they've met somebody that they like and want to try and escape the covert emotional incestual relationship, but they can't, because the DNA fusion that they've built won't allow that, along with the maternal bonds, and it's imposterous. It's a cave where there's no bottom. It's a hole that you fall down and you don't hit the bottom. And you'll watch all this going on. You'll see them dash to their substances. You'll see them try and soothe through their alcohol and medication. You'll watch the children, adult males, get their timing wrong and approach the mother in a covert incestual way while you're there, and she'll be embarrassed. She'll push him away. He'll kiss her on the neck, put his arms around her and cup her just underneath the breasts, and kiss her around the neck, and you'll see her flinching and squirming. But then when you're gone, and this causes, I've seen this get to the point where the child's left to live with the father. Couldn't take the rejection, couldn't take the being pushed away. But it was all superficial. The mother was only doing it because she was embarrassed. She was being demoralized. I've seen them come up behind them and hold them around the stomach and smell their hair. I've seen them lying on their beds with a picture of themselves and their mother, looking at the picture of themselves and their mother. Goodness knows what else. Yeah, it's just shocking. It's and the silly part about it is they're completely, once the psychological lust comes over them, They become completely self-unaware. And they'll display the covert emotional incest intimacy in front of you. And one will be unaware and the other one will be aware, and there'll be this conflict, like a woman that's got a partner that she doesn't want, but it's actually her child, or the child, the mother. And it causes incredible confusion. I mean, the conflicts that happen between these people, the combinations and way in which they take place are incomprehensible. But if no one's around, they'll be lying on the telly, watching telly together with one or the other's head in their lap. And they'll cook dinner together, and they'll groom each other, and they'll romance each other while you're not around, while the partner's not around. I'm sorry, I know this is brutal, but it's how it is. I've seen it. I've been there. I've been out on the battlefield. I want to help people to be aware of this, because you'll be emotionally starved and then emotionally assassinated. Because once you confront it, that person ain't staying around. It's like exposing a narcissist. They ain't staying around. They're going to blame you. The blame will always come back to you. Because blood's thicker than water, right or wrong. And you have to accept this right from the start. These are where these sayings come from. Blood's thicker than water and all this sort of thing. It's a war. A war these people don't realise they're in. They think they're defending their children and their mother and all this. It's absolutely got nothing to do with it. It's not about a healthy child-parent bond. This is a whole different nature. This is the consequence of parents breaking down and children being surrogated and parentified and used as intimate partners. And once a child gets a taste of this, it sparks something inside them. They get curious. They want to know what boundaries they can push. I've seen a young bloke come up and rub his mum on the arse and just giggle. They just giggle. But there's a lot more going on than that, because it becomes habitual, and then it goes to the next step, a grab on the bum, and then a touch on the front, on the front of the dress, down where the vagina is. I've seen all this, guys. And it's real. They are unaware. The one that goes into the covert emotional incest moment becomes unaware of who is around them and what's going on. I'll continue this in talk number 3. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison. Bye for now.